Well, reflecting on the spring statement for you this afternoon, and as we try to solve the energy crisis, are vampire appliances, what are they? We'll explain. Vampire appliances devouring your money. So these so-called devices, well, they are devices, but they're so-called vampire devices. They suck power even when people think they're inactive. Sort of thing we're talking about, appliances like phone chargers, printers. If they're plugged in but not in use, they still draw energy from the plug socket. British Gas estimates up to 23%, nearly a quarter, of electrical usage could be the work of these vampire appliances. Let's turn to the independent heating and energy consultant, Rob Bohm, who joins us now. Rob, welcome to you. I mean, that does seem an astonishingly high figure.
Good afternoon. I think it probably is a little bit on the high side. They like to sort of estimate a little bit high with these numbers, but there is significant changes that can be made, just sort of everyday usage, which will have an impact. So yes, I think, it all depends on how big your house is, how you use your house, but there are lessons that we can all learn to make things better. I think we're all guilty of using too much energy, frankly.
Yeah, but timing is everything, isn't it? I mean, I know with, my teenage children, I might say, turn off that iPhone charger, it's drawing power from the mains. But actually, if I say to them, turn it off because you don't, electricity is now political. If we use that energy unnecessarily, it helps that guy, that Vladimir Putin guy. And I think that might be a message that might make them take action.
Yeah, that's a good slant, really, because, I mean, it's always said that if, we currently use 4% of gas from Russia, well, reducing our energy by 4% you think would be relatively easy to do in terms of everything we do. So I would say, yes, that's quite a good argument to have with people who say, well, actually, I'll just leave things plugged in because it doesn't matter.
Rob, can we just enumerate what devices we're talking about here? I mentioned the phone chargers. I also mentioned printers. Does it include things like the Alexa that gets left on? I mean, what are the big vampire devices?
Let's start off with the small ones first. So the phone chargers use a very small amount when they're actually plugged in and not charging. I mean, this probably only equates to maybe a pound or two a year. But if you obviously got 20 of the things, then it starts making a difference. It's all sort of scale variant. But if you start building up from there, so your average TV, depending on age and type, could use up towards about sort of £10 plus a year. Now, if you're saying, if you've got 4 to 5 TVs in your house, that starts becoming significant. I mean, would you sort of walk over £50 on the floor? Probably not. Now, you have to be careful, though, because some elements are Wi-Fi connected. And if you do turn them off, like your router or some new televisions, then each time you turn it on, the thing needs to be rebooted and potentially putting Wi-Fi passcodes in, which becomes a bit of a bore. But there are other things which are sort of a little bit more invisible that you don't think about. Quite often, people's hi-fis can be a really big draw. So if you've got an amplifier which is plugged in, that could be using somewhere between £70 to £80 a year, which becomes quite significant. Other elements like your laptop, I mean, because people are working from home quite a lot these days, if you think, most people are going to have at least 2 screens, a laptop, a printer, and that's all going to be plugged in and quite often left, maybe even ticking over overnight, which could say, well, actually, that could be using you somewhere in the region of sort of £40 to £50 a year quite easily. So the idea behind that is you could have a multi-plug where you plug it all in and make sure that you sort of turn that off as you finish work, and make sure you do actually turn your laptop off and run it down, as it were. But obviously, the most important thing is if you do plug things into multi-plugs, that the actual current you're required for all these elements are within the safe limits of the plug. There is a risk of overloading these multi-plugs.
Within all this, Rob, there is going to be a trade-off, isn't there, between convenience and cost? I mean, I could turn off my Skybox. The flip side of that is when I come to turn on the telly, I've got to wait however long it is, 2 or 3 minutes for the thing to fire up, if it's firing up from being off.
Yes, I mean, the thing is that we like convenience, don't we? We like to turn things on and everything be there immediate. If we're happy to wait a few moments, then yes, you'd have a saving on that. Skyboxes also, they use quite a lot of power during the year. So it is a convenience. If you actually want to think about doing this, you have to be really quite disciplined. You need to be thinking about, right, what elements do I think you use quite a bit of power? Or what am I happy to go off and turn off? I mean, the classic thing is a washing machine. You let the washing machine run, and then you pull the washing out, and you just leave it. So the thing is actually still on, all the LEDs are on, the displays are on, and that could be using sort of, as much as an LED light bulb running for sort of a day, just with the washing machine sat on. Now, you wouldn't leave a light on all day long if you didn't need it. So why would you leave the washing machine on? But we do. I'm afraid we're all kind of guilty of that. So there's these little things which would be quite easy to do, but it's discipline. We just need to get used to doing it.
Yeah, it's a habit, isn't it? Rob Bohm, really interesting subject. I'm glad you were able to shine a light on it.